Colorado can be a really interesting place to study weather patterns. A group of Boulder-based forecasters just published a study about one of the biggest weather stories in Colorado history, the wind patterns the day of the Marshall Fire.
Yeah, Jennifer Meckles is here to talk about this. I mean, that was a day like you rarely see. That was knock you off your feet wind.
Right. And I didn't remember this, guys. Maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but that wasn't technically a red flag warning day, the day of the Marshall Fire. Plenty of other wind warnings, to be clear, but not the ones that we kind of think of now as that high fire danger warning. One thing of many that came out of this research is a new recommendation for how to improve the warning systems on those very extreme wind days. Scientists based in Colorado did a deep dive on the forecast from December 30th, 2021.
Oh, wow.
They found what many Coloradans already know. Those wind predictions were bad news.
They went unabated for roughly 11 hours straight with gusts at least 60 miles per hour, and for several hours in their gusts over 100 miles per hour.
That's Paul Schlatter with the National Weather Service, and we all know what happened next.
So having that much wind concentrated in that area, any fire that got started there was going to quickly get out of control. In other downslope wind events or in other wind events that we also have looked at pretty closely, sometimes they'll get a break. Like the winds will slacken off just a little bit for 10 or 15 minutes along that corridor where the fire started. That was not the case with this one. It was constant, roughly 11 hours of high and extreme winds.
There were certainly wind warnings that day, but there wasn't a red flag warning, which warns of fire risk and considers not just the wind, but also relative humidity, the amount of humidity in the air. These researchers now recommend a new approach moving forward.
The relative humidity never really got that close to the threshold of 15% for a red flag warning. So in hindsight, because of how severe the winds were, and who cares what the relative humidity is when there's winds that strong, fires are going to spread. In the future, we plan to issue red flag warnings for extreme cases like this. When the wind is so strong, so what if relative humidity isn't quite at that threshold for a red flag warning? We're just going to issue it anyway.
The study was published in an American Meteorological Society journal. Lots of good science in there. Since the Marshall Fire, people do feel differently now a lot about high wind days. We've talked to fire survivors, how triggering it can be when they feel that wind, first responders, and even the general public, guys. We're just more dialed into these kind of warnings now than we ever were before the Marshall Fire. These scientists said, yeah, they've seen the same thing.
I think it changed a lot of people's perceptions. I mean, the wind is one aspect of it, but just in terms of where fires can happen, how quickly they can spread. I mean, it was truly something that was, unprecedented in Colorado history.
Yeah, but this research, the scientists say this research shows these conditions can and likely will happen again. So if nothing else, now we know what can happen when it goes totally wrong, right?
Jennifer Meckles, thank you.